new faces and some regular faces. Lovely to see you all. Although to confess, I don't have my lenses in, so you're all a little bit blurred, which makes everybody look great. Me included. I'm officially starting. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Oh, and if you feel you want to share, please tap in where you're joining us from. That would be great. So, for those of you who have never been in my kitchen or met me, my name is Karen Wong Diggs, and I am a chef, a nutritionist, and the chief fermentation officer for two fermentation devices. This is the Shuami fermentation device, and this is the Kraut source, which I think many of you are also familiar with. This fits onto a French-made glass jar, and the Kraut source fits onto a regular mason jar. So this is the difference. But that's not our focus today. Our focus today is I'm going to encourage you to start making your own ranch dressing and other dressings at home. But before we get started, I do want to thank Vicky for joining us. So Vicky, I'm just going to let you share with our audience today what you do, because I love what you do.
Good morning, everybody. I'm a food stylist working in San Francisco, and that just means I set food up for the camera. Generally speaking, I work on cookbooks. Next week, I'll be doing some packaging for some food product, but that's it. It's kind of a niche little career, and I know quite a bit about food, and I have met Karen in food circumstances, and we just bonded. We like one another, and
Yeah, I know.
like what she's doing, and I really appreciate that she teaches me new things about food that I otherwise don't have exposure to. So I really value what she contributes.
Well, and I learned from you too, Vicky. Is it a like secret, or can you share with us the last cookbook you worked on without saying like names?
I can just tell you that it was an anniversary cocktail book for Trader Vic's, which was started in Emeryville, California, and brought up the tiki culture or the tiki rum drink culture that we see in going around. It has some popularity, a resurge in popularity. So
yes. I love Trader Vic's in Emeryville. I have lounged there many times. So maybe Vicky, that's our next rendezvous. Let's tiki.
A cocktail.
Yay! Okay. How many people have also been in a tiki lounge? Raise your hand or put a 1 in the chat.
So just FYI, I'm going to try to be moderating in the chat room so that everybody can put their questions there and give Karen time to stay focused on what she's presenting today. And hopefully I'm not going to screw it up for all of us.
No, you won't. There's no messing up here. We're all just going to have fun.
Yeah, we got a lot of people. Georgia, Ontario, Canada, Tallahassee, Braga, Portugal. Wow.
Hey, all right. I don't see too many ones, so not many people tiki at the lounge, but that's okay.
That's a good time. A lot of drinkers.
Okay.
At 10 a.m.
All right, so let's get started officially. So thank you everyone for joining me on a Saturday, wherever you are joining from. And again, I am always so honored that you are taking time today to join me. And a reminder that this will be recorded, and Vicky will be sharing the recipe for the ranch dressing. So no need to panic about like writing things down or whatever. And the reason why I opted to send you the recipe today is I just really want you to focus in on what I'm going to share with you. And you can always make your dressing later. This is super, super easy. And the other thing that I'm going to share with you are several tips to minimize your exposure to plastic. I think some of you might have heard in the news lately that there's a lot of research that has been shared, I would say, in the past year, writing on the fact that we now know that plastic is not truly recyclable. And in fact, only about 6% or less of all the plastic that was ever made in the world since the 1950s is truly recycled. Plus, scientists now know, especially neurologists, know that we are absorbing a lot of the microplastic particles into our bodies, and a lot of it is actually crossing the blood-brain barrier into the brain. They have looked at cadavers, and they have found as much as the equivalent of a plastic spoon's worth of microplastic in people's brains. And the sad thing is it's going up instead of going down. So I don't want to freak the hell out of everybody here, but it is very important to understand what's happening. And so I always say the best way to protect yourself is in your home and in your kitchen. This is the fort, right? You can choose what to bring in, what to make, what to imbibe and ingest that will be healthy, or conversely, you can do things that are not healthy. So, ranch dressing. You know what? Do I have a bottle? Okay. I actually have a bottle of ranch dressing somewhere in that plastic bottle. Okay. So I just wanted to quickly say ranch dressing has a fascinating history. It was actually invented by a plumber turned rancher. He was working in Alaska and then he retired like pretty young at 35 or 40 years old, came to California and bought a ranch, and it was called Hidden Valley Ranch. And he turned his ranch into like partly an Airbnb and a restaurant. And he started making the ranch dressing, which became so popular that he actually couldn't keep up with production. So long story short, he was already very successful as a restaurateur making his ranch dressing. And then it was bought over by a big company, escapes me right now, in 1970. And for $8 million in 1970. He retired. Okay. And so that's how we have Hidden Valley Ranch dressing, which I think is the most iconic, famous one. And then the competitor is Kraft. So these are the two major ones.
Clorox was the name of the
Clorox,
purchase.
thank you.
Yeah.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? I mean, it's like adding insult to injury. Clorox is the maker of your favorite dressing. So for all of these reasons, we want to make our own. So anyway, the ranch dressing, when it comes in that bottle, non-recyclable plastic, every time you're opening or flipping that cap, open, closing, you're releasing microplastic, nanoparticles into the air, and you're breathing it in. That bottle is plastic. It is reactive with whatever is in that bottle. So every time you're squeezing it, and as it sits longer and longer, even in your fridge, then there's a chemical reaction between the plastic and the dressing. In particular, when something has oil, oil really reacts with plastic chemicals. So then you have kind of like a perfect storm. So you're actually pouring something that's fairly toxic onto your supposedly healthy salad. So you guys got the point, right? Okay. Vicky, can you share the recipe with everybody? The Google
Yes,
Doc link.
it is posted, and I will share it again for those of you who didn't pick it up.
Okay, cool. So, this is not a cooking class, so I'm not going to go step by step. Suffice to say, you can follow the recipe, and I would say the first time that you make it, I would say make it in a smaller container. This is a 500 milliliter Le Parfait glass jar that Shu and me fits on. And this is a pint-sized mason jar that the crowdsource fits on. Okay. So I would say start with something like this so that you are used to making it, you're comfortable with the fermented part of it. And then once you get going, you can make a bigger batch and you can like give it away as gifts or whatnot. Or just keep it in your fridge. It also makes a great dipping sauce. I think that's why it's so popular. So anyway, with the recipe, we put onions, garlic. You can put in more garlic if you like. We put in some bay leaves. I sometimes also like to add a sprig of rosemary. It sort of adds a really nice overtone of rosemary to the ferment. So these are your options. And then you get raw, okay, non-salted raw cashew, and you ferment it in your fermentation device. I'm going to assume that most of our audience today have fermented before, but if you haven't, that's okay. You can ask a question in the chat. So if you have fermented, you know how the process goes. But anyway, let me just undo this and show you. So basically, you do your usual ferment at room temperature. However, the caveat is because the majority of the ingredient is cashew nuts. And cashew, if you ferment cashew in and of itself, it really is not going to ferment the way we know it with lactic acid bacteria, right? Because lactic acid bacteria is what drives the fermentation for sauerkraut, pickles, kimchi, but these are nuts. So what we're doing is we're adding the onions and the garlic and a sprig of rosemary, plus you want to add in a tablespoon of brine from something that you have fermented. I would suggest either pickles or sauerkraut. You can also add in some whey, W-H-E-Y, the liquid that comes off from yogurt. So you want to add in any of these, either some fermented pickle brine, some fermented sauerkraut brine, or a teaspoon or up to a tablespoon of whey into your ferment, and you set everything up as normal and let it ferment 3 to 4 days. So this is not like a long ferment. Now, the other good thing about doing this is we're soaking the nuts on top of like giving it a light fermentation. So then the cashew becomes much more digestible. And remember, the classic original ranch dressing used buttermilk and sour cream, which I really love as well. So in fact, at the end of this process, if you kind of like the dairy and you're not allergic to it, you could actually add in a little bit of sour cream or creme fraiche or buttermilk. But if you're a vegan or if you just want to really keep it dairy free, then this is really good to go. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to open my fermented cashew, and maybe Vicky, if you could give us the spotlight on this closer look. There we go. Okay, so here, I'll just bring everything a little closer. Okay. Can you guys see that a little bit better?
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Okay. And so by the way, everybody, I also want to just confess that this morning I was on a rose farm picking roses until 8 o'clock in the morning, and I dashed back. So I'm not as well organized as I am usually, but I just didn't want to miss the chance of picking like these gorgeous organic garden roses at their prime. Anyway, all right, back to this. So this has been fermented, and you see we have the brine, we have the cashew. What I would advise you to do, you do not want to throw this entire thing into the blender because there's some brine here. I'm just going to taste it. And oh, that's really lovely. It's tangy. Depending on the thickness of the dressing that you want to make, you might not want to throw in everything at once because you might end up with something that's too watery. So what I would suggest is you strain your ferment. So you want to grab a strainer, grab a bowl, non-plastic bowl, strain your ingredients into the bowl here. Okay, and you see like everything is looking great. We have the garlic. And by the way, if the garlic turns a little green or blue, don't worry. It's just a reaction to the minerals in the salt and water. Okay, because I know people get freaked out. Boo, garlic. You will not die. I hope. No, just joking. You won't. You might start to look like a Smurf, but you won't die. Okay, so now we're going to throw it into our blender. You can throw in the whole thing into the blender. I am going to add a little bit of this liquid just so that there's some liquid to get it going. I'm going to do about half, and I'm going to get it blending. And this might make a bit of noise. And those of you who have been in my kitchen before, you know that this is my old-fashioned blender that my mom never used. And lucky me, it still has a glass bowl.
Karen, we have a question about whether you can use cashew pieces rather than whole cashews.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, because this gets all blended anyway. Olive oil.
Karen, can you approximate how much oil you're putting in there? That is not in the recipe.
All right, sorry for the noise, but you see what I was doing. I was adding in my extra virgin olive oil and then adding in the liquid as I'm looking at it to see. All right, so
Karen, can you eliminate the oil, and also can you tell us how much oil you put in approximately?
it's in the recipe, and I would say go by how thin or thick you want your dressing to be. But approximately what I poured in there was about probably a little bit less than half a cup. I happen to like extra virgin olive oil. And by the way, you can also use a combination of avocado and extra virgin olive oil if you want. Okay.
And can you eliminate the oil altogether?
You could. I mean, yeah, I mean if you for whatever reason you don't want to have the oil, the good thing is like the cashew does have fat in it. So you can absolutely eliminate it if you want. All right, so I'm going to give my cashew dressing. That is so good already. No, honestly, I'm not making this up. Okay. It has like a tanginess to it, which I love. It needs to go smoother though, because you know how ranch dressing really has that smooth thing. So I'm gonna, sorry about the noise again. Just let it go. And then you find five. All right, so just for the sake of expediency and not to drive everybody crazy with the blender, I'm going to stop here. And what you want to do is you don't want to add in your fresh herbs until you've blended everything. I mean, you could, but then you're going to end up with like a kind of a weird grayish dressing because the classic ranch has this nice, creamy color to it and then has the herbs running through it. So what you can do is pour some out. You can do it to the whole batch and then add in your chives. You can also add in some oregano. I have some dill here, which I love. So you can definitely adjust the herbs according to your own flavor. You could even add in a little bit of paprika or cayenne if you want to kick to it. So this is it. This is ranch dressing. Pretty simple, right? Any questions?
Why do you add two oils, olive and avocado?
Oh, just to mix it up a little bit. You don't have to. It's really up to your taste preference. You know, I happen to like extra olive oil a lot, but some people don't like the taste of the olive oil. Or if the olive oil that you're using might be kind of astringent, then you can use some avocado oil. So now that we have our dressing, we just mix it up. Vicky, maybe if you can, the spotlight camera.
Okay.
So we see this dressing. It looks like ranch. It pours like ranch.
Can you get that closer to the camera, Karen? There we go.
Right? It looks like ranch. Of course, like ranch, it must be ranch dressing. Okay. And the other thing too, you might want to add in a little bit more salt, but because we made a brine, you want to be mindful. Don't like put in a lot of salt at the beginning. For this one, I'm just going to taste my own. That is so good. Okay. This is seriously, guys, really good. So what I'm going to do is I was gifted this lovely garden tomato. I'm just going to slice it. Oh my God, look at this. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful, right? So I keep my dishes very simple. If you have some lettuce or whatever, put it on a plate. Sorry, Vicky, this is not exactly your level of
Looks fantastic to me.
your level of food styling, but you guys got the idea. Drizzle on your ranch. Maybe do a little bit of fresh herb on top, and you have your homemade ranch dressing on garden ripe tomatoes or whatever you want to put it on.
Let's show camera.
All right, you guys. So I hope I am incentivizing you, inspiring you to make your own ranch dressing. Okay, and of course, if you like it, you can store it in a bottle so that it looks like a dressing bottle. Glass, 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 please. You could even divide that batch into two and put in different herbs and spices, After you've done it, done this, then you do want to store it in the fridge. And because it is fermented, I have actually found that a ranch dressing that has fermented will keep a lot longer in the refrigerator. But just to be on the safe side, because people double dip or whatever, I would use this ranch dressing within 2 weeks or so. But just the secret between you and I, you guys, it keeps a lot longer. Okay. All right. Okay. So, any questions on our ranch dressing?
Somebody asked about adding an avocado instead of avocado oil. I think they just didn't hear the question. And in my mind, that makes it a green goddess dressing.
It does. Thank you. Yeah, there you go. It's so versatile, you guys. Thank you for the person who mentioned that. Yeah, you're gonna make it a green goddess, add in more herbs, it makes it even more goddessy. But yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. So just think of your ranch dressing as the base, right? And then to that, you can create your own unique dressing. You could add in tomato paste, and then that becomes almost like a tartar dressing, right? You could fold in capers. Okay, now we're just
Thousand
going
Island.
off. We're just going off. Okay.
We can riff on this all day.
We can really do, yeah. And if you have more suggestions, share it in the chat. All right. So, any more questions on the ranch dressing before we move on to my topic about plastic?
No questions coming through. So,
okay, you guys, I'm just going to assume that you are all good to go and that everybody's going to be making their own ranch dressing. Okay, so now we are going to move on to several suggestions about plastic. So just out of curiosity, how many people have been concerned about the use of plastic? Give me a 2 in the chat if you are concerned about the use of plastic, exposure to plastic.
Yeah, we're getting it just about everybody.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I'm not boring you. Okay, so I'm just going to share with you practical tips that I do myself in the kitchen. So just so you know, I have not used a saran wrap or Ziploc bags for over 10 years. Okay, I lie a little bit. Occasionally, I do use a Ziploc bag, but I use it really more for storage of like batteries or stuff where I'm not opening and closing it all the time. But definitely saran wrap has not entered my home for over 10 years. And I do just fine. So there are several things that people really have issues about, like how do you freeze things? How do you wrap vegetables? So I'm going to tackle the vegetable part first, because this is where a lot of people have a misconception that you have to wrap your vegetables in plastic and store it in the fridge. Okay, so the problem is, have you noticed that when you wrap vegetables or herbs in a plastic bag and store it in the fridge, within a day or two, it becomes really gross. And if you forget about it, then you've got like some major weird things growing in the back of your fridge. Okay? And some of that stuff could be in the back of your fridge for years. All right. So, what we first want to do is when you go shopping at the supermarket and the farmer's market too, as much as you can, do not use the plastic bags. Okay. I understand if you're buying loose items like plums or whatever, you might need to have a bag to bring it home. But you could also bring your own bag. Okay. So the idea is like, first, don't bring that plastic home. Even those compostable ones are pretty funky. So when you wrap your lettuce or your apples or whatever in a plastic bag and you put it in the fridge, there's a natural gas. It's actually a plant hormone called ethylene. It's naturally produced all fruits and vegetables as they're ripening, and is ethylene is a gas, and the gas needs to dissipate. It helps the fruit or vegetable ripen, but when you're trapping it in a plastic bag, then you are suffocating your lovely vegetable or fruit in plastic. So no wonder if you go to it like 2 or 3 days and you open it, it's become all gross and wilty, and it might even smell a little weird. So my advice is do not bring it in a plastic bag. It's totally okay to put it loose into your basket and bring it home. Okay, so I will show you. I pulled out one of my vegetable drawers, and this is what I do. And we'll work backwards. So can you guys see this pretty okay at this angle? I think probably okay. Yes? Okay. So by the way, I kind of save these little things. These are paper. I just happened to buy something and they came in this, so I saved it. So this is purslane that I got from the farmer's market, right? I brought it back loose, but you can put it on a little tray like this, right? So it's organized. So we're going backwards, and then I brought some Brussels sprouts, and I'm doing the same thing. No plastic here, it can breathe. Here are some herbs that I wrapped in a paper towel. And these were like baby bok choy from the farmer's market and a cucumber. They're all loose. So I line my drawer with parchment. You see parchment here? That keeps it nice and clean. I lay my big vegetables on the bottom. The loose ones I can put into a tray like this. And here's the part that I want to show you. This layer here, if you want to keep it nice and crisp and fresh long, what you want to get yourself is a clean, nice cotton or linen kitchen towel. Doesn't have to be new or fancy or anything. You know, if you have some old bedding that's cotton, you could even cut it into squares and do this. And you just want to dampen it.
So we have a question about the mixing of the vegetables absorbing each other's odors.
You know what? When they're like this, it's pretty much, I would say, odor free. You get that odor when you're putting it into plastic bags. Granted, I mean, you know, if you have something that's really smelly, what's a really smelly vegetable? Um, Help me out, you guys. I actually don't know. But it is true that you probably want to keep your fruit and your vegetables separate if you can, because they ripen at different they ripen at different exudation of ethylene. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
one
the
of the questions
what
is
is it?
about half an onion, for example.
So for half an onion, you know what I do with half an onion? So a damp paper towel is actually your friend. The damp paper towel really keeps the odor from like going out. So if you cut this in half, use a paper towel, damp it, and wrap it. Okay, that works really well. Okay.
And another question, lately at the farmer's market, they've been offering cotton mesh bags for you
Yeah.
to put produce in, and it's perfectly fine to store your vegetables in that in the drawer, I would imagine.
Totally. I mean, if you guys are handy at sewing, that's what I mean. Like in the also in the ethos of no waste. I think some of you know my friend Anne Marie Bonneau, Zero Waste Chef. I love Anne-Marie. She's one of my heroes. When I think about something like should I waste, should I not, and then like Anne-Marie pops into my mind, and I'm like, I'm going to figure a way to reuse this. So she'll take some old cotton clothing or bedding, whatever, and she sews them. And I think they were recently just at the farmers market, like giving them out for free. Maybe you saw her there. So this is my since I'm not really handy at sewing, okay. So it doesn't have to be drenched wet. As you can see, there are some dry spots, just damp, okay. And then lay it on your vegetables like that. And then you can do another layer here if you want, okay. Here, I have that, and then I can do another damp towel, which I don't have handy. Sorry, you guys. Like I said, I'm a little disorganized, but you can do another layer here. Damp is the word, not wet, damp, okay? And then put it into your refrigerator. And I promise you, your vegetables are going to look a lot more beautiful. They'll be a lot more happy, and there'll be less of that stinkiness or weirdness. And chances are you won't be throwing away gross stuff that's rotting in a plastic bag.
So
So
Karen, one of the questions is about the safety of eating produce that started to wilt in the compostable bags, not in plastic, but in compostable bags.
yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, thank you for carrying that thought through with me. I've always wondered, like, I know it's compostable, I know it's not plastic, but it still requires a high level of production, right, to make these bags. So, I mean, I do use those for my garbage. But in terms of bringing stuff home, I try to really minimize it now, as much as I can. So, it's kind of like a mindset. Once I lay down the gauntlet and I'm like, okay, I'm going to step it up here. I'm going to really like try like beyond the Ziploc and the saran wrap. I'm going to really try not to bring plastic home. Then when you say that mantra to yourself, you figure out other ways to do it. All right. So any questions on storing your vegetables like this? We're good? Okay.
They were just wondering about compost. Okay, can you dampen your mesh bags as well?
Oh yeah, you can. You can. Actually, for those of you who live in the Bay Area and particularly in Berkeley, the Ecology Center, which I've mentioned before, I love them. Unfortunately, they do not have an online store, but if you're not handy in sewing, they have a lot of these beautiful thin cotton bags that you can buy. And they also have one where it's a thicker cotton that you can tuck your vegetables in and you wet it and store it that way. So again, for those of you who are not handy and you just need it store-bought, there are definitely a lot of resources now. And
how about a cabbage, Karen? How would you store that?
I rarely usually when I bring a head of cabbage home, it turns into sauerkraut. But a cabbage is very, very hardy, right? That's why it's one of the most iconic common vegetables around the world because of his hardiness, his ability to turn into amazing sauerkraut. So let's say if you cut it in half and you want to put it into the fridge, I would just wrap it in a damp towel, either paper towel or kitchen towel, and store it. So basically, it's the same idea as this, like you're layering it, and it'll keep quite a while. Any other types of vegetables that you want to ask about storing or fruits? We're good? All right, so now I'm going to move on to freezing. Okay, it's not going to answer all of your freezing needs by any means, but this is just a suggestion. All right. Okay.
There's a question about sprouts and microgreens, and
Okay.
glass jars would be perfect for that, wouldn't they?
Sorry, what is your question about sprouting and microgreens?
Storage at those would
Okay,
do
so
really well in
microgreens,
glass jars.
I actually think microgreens should be minimally stored because if you think about the impact of microgreens is that they are grown, and usually if you go to a microgreens purveyor like at the farmers market, they cut it off right away and they give it to you. It's really meant to be used ASAP. But if you do need to store it, I would say pretty much the same way. But because microgreens are very fragile, I would actually store it in a jar.
Mhm.
I would maybe put a dampened towel on the bottom, so that there's some moisture, and then just kind of fluff your microgreens and put it here. And then in terms of a cover, maybe just what I would do is, thank you for asking that question. Now you're making me think. What you want to do then is maybe cover it with another paper towel, put a rubber band around it, and store it. So the thing is, it needs moisture, but it also needs air. So does that make sense?
And also, if you're not eating it right away, just leave it in its container with
Yeah,
the
exactly.
moisture.
In the soil or in the growing medium that it came in. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then one more question on how do you deal with English cucumbers that come wrapped in plastic wrap?
Honest,
You don't
I
buy
never
those?
bring it home. I don't even look at it. I find that to be like so insulting to the vegetable. Okay, but joking aside, sometimes you just can't find cucumber any other way, right? I understand that. Just take that plastic off, free that cucumber, okay, and then store it like we talked about. And that's a really good point, because sometimes you're just shopping somewhere or you're in a neighborhood where everything is wrapped in plastic. That is very unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. When you bring it home as soon as you can, free that vegetable or free that fruit. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you store mushrooms, Karen?
Oh, and just a paper bag. It
Yeah.
needs to breathe. Yeah. All right. So you guys, storing strawberries. These are beautiful, organic, farm picked strawberries. I didn't pick them. Okay. But you see how lovely they look? Maybe we can do a close up. Vicky, can you do a close up of?
Oh, yes, sorry.
That's
We
okay.
had a question about will you please do a Zoom on making fermented black garlic?
Oh God, now you're like challenging me. Okay, I will. So you see my frozen strawberries are so beautiful. Okay, and they're fun. What you want to do is when you bring it home, your fresh strawberries, when you bring it home, put it onto a tray and freeze them individually. Like so again, sorry guys, I'm not super prepared today, but if you can imagine like a baking sheet lined fresh strawberries, you put it into the freezer for about an hour until they're solid like this, okay? And then you can pop it into a jar. Like this jar, which is a French Le Parfait wide mouth jar that I absolutely love. And you guys will get a discount to get these jars at the end, so don't go away. It fits actually 2 pints of strawberries.
Do you wash your strawberries before you freeze them?
No, do not wash your fruit before freezing. And thank you for asking that. You really don't want to wash any of your vegetables when you're storing it either, although you can. The vegetables are a lot hardier, but the fruits you don't. So you see, like these are beautiful. So if I need to take out maybe a handful, because you know how like when you store fruit in a Ziploc and it sort of like uh it sticks together and you have to defrost the whole bag and whatnot. With this, you just pull out whatever you need. I think I'll leave that out. Put your jar back on and back into the fridge. Okay. This other jar here, I have stored some chocolate cake. Okay. So basically I cut it into pieces and I was able to freeze it in this jar, chocolate cake, which I am going to defrost because I forgot that I had these and they're delicious. The good thing about these Le Parfait glass jars are, and Vicky, you can go back to the main camera. Unlike larger mason jars that have the little thing, I love these jars because it is big opening. So you can reach in and out very easily. And these jars are much more sturdy than mason jars, although the price point, reflects it. That's why I'm going to offer you a 20% discount at the end. These jars are made in France. The quality is really, really good. And they've been around for over 100 years.
How about the
Europe, they're
lids?
really popular.
Are the lids chemical free is the question that's coming through.
The glass is chemical free. The lids are your standard lids, metal, right? And then this is a rubber ring because these were made for canning. But we also have stainless steel lids and rings on our website, just so you guys know. So I do prefer these for storage instead of the mason jars. And another thing, if you're making bone broth or even vegetable broth, these are really great. They don't crack in the freezer. They are a lot stronger than mason jars. Having said that, in our effort to go plastic free, I encourage you to use any kind of glass jar. Recycle your peanut butter jars, recycle your jam jars if they are glass and has a metal lid. Keep them, because when you think about our tremendous penchant for waste in our society, we toss things away like, oh, finish, boom, trash, boom, trash. Some jars are beautiful. Some glass jars are really beautiful, and you can recycle them for something else, or at least, glass is recyclable. It is truly recyclable. So I encourage you to start gathering your jars. Okay. So any questions?
Good for dry storage too.
Yes, of course, good for dry storage. And it just looks beautiful when it's in a glass jar. Okay, so I'm going to save my thawing strawberries. Maybe I'll make an ice cream. Now I'm going to go on to a last tip. But before that, I do want to share with you the history of Ziploc bags. Does anyone know the history of Ziploc bags? Just curious.
No responses.
No response. Okay, silence. Okay. I did a little research. Very interesting that the Ziploc mechanism. But do I have a? Like I said, I have not had plastic in my. Oh, you know what? Here. Okay. This is a small Ziploc bag. So I just wanted to illustrate. So this mechanism here, this little Ziploc device thing that we take for granted. Like, did you ever think about like who invented it? Okay. So someone invented this Ziploc mechanism, and he didn't realize the value of what he invented. So two guys, a father and son from C.S. Johnson, bought the patent from this guy, and they also attached this to the plastic bag. And it didn't come into wide use until the 1960s, like 1965, 6, 7, that they started really promoting the Ziploc bag. Okay, and so before that, we did really well without using a Ziploc bag. So if you think about Ziploc bags and how much C.S. Johnson has made since 1960s, we've made them extremely wealthy. Okay, they are now billionaires. And what has happened to our environment? We're at the brink of collapse. So this particular type of Ziploc bag, this part, when it goes into the land, what do you call it? The
Landfill.
the land garbage
Landfill.
landfill. Thank you. Landfill. I need more coffee. When it goes into the landfill, or if it goes into the ocean, or just anywhere, this will start degrading, right? But degrading doesn't mean disappearing. When it starts degrading, it gets worse, because now exposed to the element, it's degrading into microparticles that we're going to ingest through the water, the soil, everything. This part, the Ziploc part, is sturdier. So when this is off from this becomes a choking mechanism for wildlife. Have you seen those terrible pictures of birds being choked, or fish? Just like this around their necks. So I'm sorry, guys, I know I'm painting a horrible picture, but this is the reality. So then this degrades, but it never really degrades. It makes our environment more polluted, and this becomes a hazard for many wildlife or even domestic animals. So that's why we do not want to use Ziploc bags. Okay. All right. So another point is, and this is very practical, when you go to the grocery store, and if you have a butcher, like some supermarkets will have a butcher within the supermarket, Be nice to them, say hi, say that they're a fabulous butchers. And when they give you your piece of meat, just say, by the way, could you just wrap it in butcher paper? I do not want the plastic. And you know what? No butcher has ever said no to me. I mean, granted, if you're doing something like, I don't know, something that has a lot of like those marinated meat, that's a different story. But I'm just saying, if you can, ask the butcher not to wrap your piece of chicken or whatever in plastic. You know, granted that it has to be an easy piece of meat to do so, and that will also lessen your exposure. So my butcher wrapped it in basically 2 layers. And again, remember, in the old days, like when our parents and grandparents went to the butcher when there were a lot more butchers around, no one wrapped things in plastic bag, right? It was in butcher paper. That's why we have that concept of butcher paper. And in fact, meat keeps a lot better in the refrigerator when it's not wrapped in plastic. The same idea. That's why if you go to a really fancy restaurant where they have aged meat, you know, in those uh, aging refrigerators, that meat is not wrapped in plastic. It is aging naturally, unwrapped. So this is a piece of pork. It came unwrapped in plastic. And now, what if you want to freeze it? All right, so this is my last tip. This is not a tip for if you want to freeze like, you know, many, many pounds of meat. That's probably a conversation for another day. But if you just want to wrap a piece of chicken or meat or whatever, small quantity, then keep the wrap that this came in. And you're going to grab yourself some unbleached parchment paper. So basically, we're just going to give it a second wrap so that it doesn't get the freezer burn. Right? And Vicky, can you come in close, please?
Mhm.
Okay, and the best way is to do it in a triangle. Make sure it's large enough. Roll down like this. Right? So it's nice and tight. And I usually flip it under like this. Okay. And then we're going to use our handy dandy beeswax. Beeswax. And with this, you can do it. And I'm doing the same. I'm rolling it down. Right? Like that. Nice and compact. This is going into my freezer. And it's good. I've done that many, many times. When you're ready to thaw it out, take that out, put it in your refrigerator overnight, and it thaws beautifully. There's no plastic, there's no mess. You can reuse the beeswax over and over and over. And so that is my suggestion for first asking the butcher, no plastic, bringing it home, and if you need to freeze it, do it like that. So those are my tips for today. Do we have any questions or comments or anything?
There were some questions about the silicone tops. I think that there's maybe some confusion about Le Parfait versus like mason jars, for example, where the tops can be silicone or silicone lined versus the stainless steel tops of Le Parfait.
Ah, right. Okay. So I think the person is talking about our stainless steel that has the silicone, right? So
And or the silicone that's in the like mason and ball jar kind of.
yeah. So honestly, I don't know the actual composition. Le Parfait versus mason jars, and I'll ask my partners in Shu and me because they are the distributor for Le Parfait. So I'll get back to you on that. But it's I would, because they are both designed for canning, that bit of it unfortunately is necessary because that's what's creating that seal. And I would suspect they are maybe of very similar materials. But since it's not in direct contact with food and you're relying it for canning purposes, I would say that's kind of like a compromise we have to make. And also silicone, there are many formulations for making something that's made of silicone. So sometimes it could have a little bit of a plastic compound mixed into it. So the truth is, not all silicone is created equal. The little ring that we have for our fermentation device is primarily silicone. But the exact mixture, I'm just going to be honest here, I don't know. Okay. But it is better than 100% plastic. And this thing lasts forever. And this thing is just basically needed again to create a tight seal. So here's the thing that I have discovered about trying to go plastic free as much as possible. And by the way, I haven't even talked about personal care products, right? Like shampoo and stuff. But here's what we need to come to a happy balance with. If you have a choice of making something at home versus getting the store-bought, like our ranch dressing, but you're using something that has a little bit of like silicone plastic, but the long game is you're making something at home. I would say a little bit of compromise in order to use a lot less plastic is a good compromise. Because when you're buying something that's commercially made, and I have worked in many commercial kitchens, you're not even seeing the chain of contact with many multiple plastic things before something ends up even in a glass jar. So that whole chain of production, whatever raw ingredients they were exposed to a lot of microplastics, and that's just a reality. So when you can make something at home, I would highly encourage you to. For that reason, I'm a chef. I love to dine out. I love to experiment, buy things. But even for myself too, I'm really trying to say, okay, hold the line here. What can you make at home? Make it at home, so that we are less exposed. We're using less plastic. And really, in the food that we eat, one more tip, you guys. If you're buying yogurt that comes in plastic tubs, as soon as you bring it home, move it to a glass jar. The yogurt is acidic. It has amount of fat and is sitting in a plastic tub. And time is your enemy. So as soon as you bring it home, move it into a glass jar, and it lasts longer in a glass jar.
So I think riding on this comment, like you basically answered it. Do the best that you can with the resources that you have.
Yep.
Somebody does have a specific question about the silicone baggie option that's out there now, these kinds of
Yeah, and I have one or two of them. I don't use them a lot. And again, it's because in the production of silicone, I don't know how much plastic is mixed into that, but it's still a great option because you're reusing that, right? I do find that the silicone sometimes does smell a little weird, smells a little funky. My way of going around that is like wrap the food first in parchment and then put it in the silicone. So listen, I forgot. The average use of Ziploc bag per person in the United States, the average American uses about 600 Ziploc bags per year. So if everybody here today will make a vow to use less Ziploc bags, or even, oh my gosh, not to use any Ziploc bags, you can imagine what an impact that makes, right, in the world. So our simple, tiny little act does matter when it is amplified by a group of people who care.
Yeah.
And so if you start using those silicone bags in lieu of Ziploc bags, then go for it. Because it's incremental, step by step by step. And maybe pretty soon after using a lot of the silicone bags, you're like, you know what? I can just wrap it in parchment. I'm comfortable with that. You figure things out for yourself because everyone's habits are different. Your home is set up differently. Your lifestyle is different. So it's really you can figure it out when you made a commitment.
And again, this is addressing the same issue about like the plastic tops versus the stainless steel tops on jars. If you want to use the stainless steel, that's the better choice. There are plastic top options out there, and
Yeah.
it's not a perfect system. yet, but that is the goal, is to try to incrementally get to the point where you're eliminating plastics altogether.
Yeah, exactly. I
There-
mean, my thing is, if something is in a plastic packaging, I try not to have it, but it's really hard, you guys. And again, so the other option is instead of buying like little packets of nuts all the time, right? I buy it from companies that will ship you like 1 pound. Is that Are those nuts going to come in a plastic bag? Most likely, yes. But at least you're buying a bigger one and you're going to store it in your glass containers. Or the best yet, in San Francisco, we have Rainbow Grocers, which is like bins, right? All the stuff are in bins. In Berkeley, you have Berkeley Bowl. I'm sure, like in whatever city you're in, you might have a supermarket that has bin stuff. So just bring your own bag, scoop it in. That's like really the best choice. So again, don't be overwhelmed because suddenly you're like, see, when your eyes open to it, you could have a bit of a moment where you're like, I need a drink. Or I need some drugs because everything, you're going to see like everything is plastic. So don't be overwhelmed. Don't be overwhelmed. Start wherever you can and just know that you are doing something wonderful for yourself, for your family, your friends, and the environment. And of course, all of our animal friends. Okay, so now we're almost there. I want to give the discount for the discount on these jars. So Vicky,
I
can
will
you
write
drop
that.
the
I'll
discount
write that in
code?
there. And then we had one really nice comment about microgreens and sprouted grains.
Okay.
That they, after they've sprouted, they ferment them in a simple brine, which keeps them fresh and delicious for a couple of weeks.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So are you using the brine from like your pickles or something and just pouring it over the greens?
That's for Nicole. Do you have
Nicole, of course, Nicole.
And then one more question, Karen. How do you clean your beeswax?
Um, just hot running water and then dry it. Yeah. Don't throw it into the dishwasher, okay? Just hot soapy water. And use the soft side of your sponge. Don't use you know what I'm saying? Oh, and you know what? Sponges, another thing. We don't have time. Vicky, make sure you drop that discount code for
I put the
20% off.
discount code in. It's ranch dressing 20. It's there for everyone to see.
Yeah, and can you drop the website, which is shoeonme.com?
For sure.
Thank you.
Nicole says she makes her own brine about 2 to 3%.
Nice, Nicole. Thank you. Love you. Nicole's my star. She's also like a sourdough queen, and she's a queen of everything. All right,
Love
one thing,
more.
you guys. For those of you who have been hankering and asking me about crowdsource, because I've discontinued it for a while, it is going to make a comeback. It will make a comeback soon, and it's going to be like these two are going to be cousins or sisters or whatever, and we're going to change the website, and it's going to be The Little Fermenter. So you can choose your French little fermenter, or you can choose your American little fermenter. You can have it sit on a French jar or an American jar. We're going to give you the options. We placed an order. It should land here by the end of November. So stay tuned. Okay. I will continue these workshops. I will think about the fermented black garlic as the next one. And I would love to take your suggestions too. So are there any questions before we wrap up?
The comment about the beeswax in hot water is that it melts the beeswax, but
Well, okay, so not super, super hot water, and you're not soaking it, right? You're just kind of rinsing it and then letting it dry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. People are saying thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And look, I just want to share this again. If you can at all, go and pick garden roses. Look at these beautiful. I
Oh,
mean,
gorgeous.
these actually smell like roses. So I'm going to turn these into jam. I'm going to make a rose petal mead. And I'm just gonna also I use it to make a roast sauerkraut. Add this to cabbage to make a sauerkraut.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So anyway, thank you everyone. I am just overwhelmed that you have opted to join me. You will get the recording and the recipe link again and the discount code. So have a fabulous weekend. Vicky, thank you for being my superstar camera
You,
person and
I'm so happy to be
and
here.
for this webinar. And I'll look forward to see you guys again soon. And yeah, let me know what you would like me to do a webinar on in the future. It can be either fermented stuff or other things, you know.
Ooh, here's a good one. Fermented foods for menopause.
Ooh, okay, that is good. All right, think about that. Yeah, there's actually a lot of stuff for menopause, and you know, we also need to think about gentle detoxification that takes the excess estrogen out of the body. And you know what, you guys, I hate to tie this back, but
Please.
menopause and excess estrogen has a lot to do with plastic toxicity in the body because the plastic is mimicking estrogen. We call it xenoestrogen, and it's landing on your receptor sites where the natural estrogen should be landing on. And so we have excess estrogen leading to a lot of menopausal problems, but not only for women, for men as well, because estrogen drives cancers like prostate and breast cancer. So
Yeah.
there we are. Okay. All
I've
right.
got a second for the black garlic, and thank you so much for the valuable information. Love all.
Thank you. And I offer everybody roses. Have a great weekend.
Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks, Vicky.
You got it.
I will see you soon.
Bye.
All right, bye. Bye, everybody. Like I said, I'm sorry, I don't have my contacts on, but I'm sure it's all good stuff. Bye, everybody. See you next time. Bye.